Frank Lucas refused to pay the Italian Mafia $5 million. What they sent to his mother's house made him declare war. Chapter 1. The Package. It's 6:47 a.m. on October 12, 1971, and Mahalia Lucas is standing in her Teaneck, New Jersey driveway, staring at a wooden crate that shouldn't be there. The crate is 4 feet long, 2 feet wide. It's sitting on her welcome mat like a birthday present from hell. No return address, no markings, just raw pine wood and 23 nails holding the lid shut. Steam rises from her coffee mug. Her hand is shaking so badly the liquid sloshes over the rim, burning her fingers. She doesn't feel it because there's a smell coming from that crate. Mahalia has lived 71 years, raised 11 children in the poverty of Greensboro, North Carolina, survived sharecropping, Jim Crow, and the death of her husband. She knows death when she smells it. She knows what meat smells like when it's been sitting in October heat for 3 days. She drops the coffee mug. It shatters on the concrete, and she starts screaming. Chapter 2. The King of Harlem. To understand what's in that crate, you need to understand what Frank Lucas had become by October of 1971. He wasn't just a drug dealer. He was an empire. While the Italian Mafia families were buying heroin from Turkish suppliers and cutting it 4, 5, 6 times before it hit the streets, Frank had done something nobody thought was possible. He'd gone directly to the source. Southeast Asia, the Golden Triangle. He was buying pure heroin from Vietnamese generals, smuggling it into the United States in the coffins of dead American soldiers, and flooding Harlem with a product so potent it was killing junkies who didn't know how to handle it. His brand was called Blue Magic, 98% pure. The competition was selling garbage at 30% purity. Frank was making $1 million per day. He owned apartment buildings in New York and New Jersey. He had a fleet of cars. He wore chinchilla coats and sat courtside at Madison Square Garden like Hua. He wasn't paying tribute. He was acting like the rules didn't apply to him. The 5 families, Gambino, Genovese, Lucchesi, Colombo, Bonanno, they'd been watching, waiting, calculating exactly how much disrespect they were willing to tolerate before they had to do something about it. On September 28, 1971, they decided Frank Lucas had crossed that line. Chapter 3. The Meeting. The meeting happens at a social club in Little Italy. Mulberry Street, 3rd floor above a butcher shop that still has sawdust on the floor and meat hooks hanging from the ceiling. Frank gets the invitation on a Tuesday, hand-delivered by a kid who can't be more than 17, wearing a suit that costs more than most cars. "Mr. Salerno would like to speak with you," the kid says. "Thursday, 3 p.m. Come alone." Frank knows what this is. Anthony Fat Tony Salerno, Genevieve's family, one of the most powerful men in New York City. You don't refuse a meeting with Fat Tony. You also don't go into that meeting unprepared. Frank brings $50,000 in cash, a gesture of respect. He leaves his gun with his driver. He walks up those stairs at 2:58 p.m. on October 3rd, 1971, wearing a 3-piece suit and a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. The room smells like cigar smoke and espresso. There are 6 men sitting around a table. Fat Tony is at the head, 300 pounds packed into a chair that looks like it's screaming for mercy. To his right is Carmine, the snake Persico from the Colombo family. To his left is Paul Castellano from the Gambinos. These aren't soldiers. These are bosses. This is serious. Frank, Fat Tony, says his voice sounds like gravel in a blender. "Sit down." Frank sits. He places the envelope with $50,000 on the table. "Nobody touches it. We got a problem." Fat Tony continues. "You've been doing business in our territory, our product, our customers, our streets, and you haven't shown the proper respect." Frank keeps his face neutral. "I've been running my own operation. Independent. I'm not stepping on anybody's." Carmine laughs. It's not a friendly sound. Independent in Harlem. "Frank, every corner in this city belongs to somebody. You've been operating like you own the place. That's disrespectful. I'm bringing in a better product." Frank says, "I'm serving a community you people ignore, except when you're collecting money. I'm not taking anything from you." The temperature in the room drops 20 degrees. Fat Tony leans forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pay us $5 million. That's for the last 3 years of you operating without permission. Then, moving forward, you're going to pay us 20% of everything you make every month. No exceptions. That's the tax for doing business in our city. Frank doesn't blink. 5 million is a lot of money. You make that in a week. Paul Castellano says, "Don't insult our intelligence." And if I say no, Frank asks. The silence that follows is the loudest thing Frank has ever heard. Fat Tony stands up, all 300 pounds. He walks around the table until he's standing directly behind Frank's chair. Frank can smell the garlic on his breath. "Frank," Fat Tony says quietly, "nobody says no to us. Nobody. You got 72 hours to come up with the money. After that, we're going to have a different kind of conversation. The kind that ends with your family attending a funeral." Frank leaves the $50,000 on the table. He walks down those stairs, gets in his car, and he makes a decision that will start a war. He's not paying. Chapter 4, The Refusal. Frank calls a meeting with his own people, his brothers, his most trusted lieutenants. They meet in a warehouse in the Bronx at 2 a.m., 12 men standing in a circle under a single hanging light bulb. The Italians want 5 million plus 20% of everything forever. Frank says they're calling it a tax. I call it extortion. His brother, Huey, speaks first. "Frank, these aren't street dealers. These are the families. You don't say no to them and live to talk about it." "I'm not paying," Frank says. His voice is steel. "I didn't build this empire to hand it over to some fat Italian who never set foot in Southeast Asia. Never risked his life smuggling product past customs. Never did anything except sit behind a desk and collect money from other people's work. They'll kill you," another lieutenant says. "They'll kill all of us." Maybe, Frank admits, or maybe they're bluffing. Maybe they think one black man from North Carolina is going to fold the second they flex their muscles. Maybe they don't understand who they're dealing with. And if they're not bluffing, Huey asks. Frank looks at each man in that room. "Then we go to war. But I'm not bowing down to these people. I'm not giving them my money. I'm not giving them my respect. They want to come at me. They can come, but I'm not rolling over." On October 6th, 1971, Frank sends a message back to Fat Tony Salerno. The message is simple. "No, not any more time. Now let me think about it, just no." The messenger delivers it to the same social club on Mulberry Street. Fat Tony reads it, crumples the paper, looks at Carmine and Paul. "Get the butcher," he says. Chapter 5, The Butcher. Salvatore, the butcher. Grano is not a made man yet. He's 32 years old. He's a soldier in the Colombo family with a reputation for two things. He never misses and he never leaves a mess. When the families need someone to disappear, they call the butcher. When they need to send a message so loud it echoes for years, they call the butcher. That on October 9th, 1971, the butcher gets his assignment. This Frank Lucas character, Carmine tells him he needs to understand consequences. We're not touching him yet, but we're going to touch something he loves. We're going to hurt him in a way that makes him feel it every day for the rest of his life. "What do you want me to do?" the butcher asks. His mother lives in New Jersey. Teaneck, nice house. She's 71 years old. Bakes cookies for the neighborhood kids. Goes to. The meeting at the warehouse happens at 9 a.m. This time, there are 20 men. Frank has called in everyone. Dealers, enforcers, the Vietnam veterans. He hired for security. Men who know how to handle weapons and aren't afraid of dying. They sent a message, Frank says. He shows them the Polaroid. "They kill my dog. They carved a threat into its body. They showed me they can get to my mother whenever they want. This is what they do when you refuse to pay them." The room is silent. "So, here's what we're going to do," Frank continues. "We're going to show them what happens when you threaten Frank Lucas's family. We're going to hit them so hard they regret ever learning my name. We're going to burn down their social clubs. We're going to hijack their shipments. We're going to make them bleed money until they're begging me to stop." "Frank," UI says carefully, "these are the 5 families. They have hundreds of soldiers. They have cops on their payroll. They have judges. They have politicians. This isn't a street war. This is suicide." "Then I'm committing suicide," Frank snaps. "Because I'm not letting this slide. They think I'm going to be scared. They think I'm going to come crawling back with a suitcase full of cash and beg for forgiveness. They made a mistake. They should have killed me when they had the chance." Over the next 14 days, Frank Lucas wages a war that shocks the underworld. On October 13th, a Genovese gambling operation in Brooklyn burns to the ground. $200,000 in cash turns to ash. No one is hurt, but the message is cleared on October 16th. A truck carrying heroin from the Lookie family is hijacked on the New Jersey Turnpike. The driver lives. The $3 million worth of product disappears. On October 19th, Carmine Persico's nephew is beaten so badly he spends 2 weeks in the hospital. His jaw is wired shut. He'll never eat solid food again. Frank is systematic, strategic. He's not killing made men. That would bring the full weight of the family's down-o. Frank brings 10 men with him. They wait outside. He goes in alone. The room has changed. Fat Tony looks smaller somehow, angrier. Paul Castiano is there. Carmine is there. And now there's a fourth man Frank doesn't recognize. Older, gray hair, expensive suit. He's sitting at the head of the table. Frank Lucas, the man says. His voice is quiet but carries weight. I'm Carlo Gambino. You've been causing problems. Frank doesn't sit. You killed my dog. You threatened my mother. You started this. We asked you to pay what you owe. Carlos says, you refused. We sent a message. You escalated. Now we're here. So what do you want? Frank asks. I want to make you an offer. Carlos says, you pay us $2 million instead of $5 million. You pay us 10% instead of 20%. And we forget the last 2 weeks ever happened. You operate in Harlem. We operate everywhere else. Nobody dies. Business goes back to normal. Frank stares at him. And if I refuse again? Carlos stands. He's 70 years old, but he moves like a much younger man. He walks to Frank, looks him in the eye. Then we stop sending messages, Carlos says. And we kill everyone you love. Your mother, your wife, your brothers, your children. We burn everything you've built to the ground. And then we kill you slowly. We make it last days. And when you're finally dead, we throw your body in the Hudson River and nobody will ever find it. That's not a threat, Frank. That's a promise. The room is silent. You got 24 hours, Carlos says. After that, we're done talking. Chapter 9, The Decision. Frank drives to his mother's house in Teaneck. It's 8:00 p.m. She's sitting on the porch in a rocking chair. She's aged 10 years and 2 weeks. When she sees Frank, she starts crying. Baby, she says. What have you done? Frank sits beside her. He takes her hand. Mama, I'm going to fix this. How, she asks. How do you fix this kind of evil?